Welcome to the Fear and Greed Afternoon Report for Wednesday, the 18th of May, 2022. I'm Sean Aylmer. Every afternoon, we bring you the 5 news items that happened today that you need to know about. Let's jump into it. Story number 1. The S&P ASX 200 closed up 1% today to 7,183 points. That's 4 rises in a row. Not bad. BHP was a strong performer on the back of higher iron ore prices, jumping 3.4%. Fortescue and Rio Tinto also did well. The banks were mixed, as were the retailers. Some of the tech stocks did well today, led by REA and WiseTech Global. In economic news, the March quarter wage price index from the Australian Bureau of Statistics shows wages grew at a less than expected clip of 0.7% last quarter, taking the annual pace to 2.4%. There were a range of strong performing stocks. Miner South32 was up nearly 6% today. Uranium miner Paladin Energy rose 5%, as did iron ore miner Champion Iron. Flight Centre was up 5%. Biotech PolyNovo was the worst on the day, down 5%, while scrap metal group Sims fell 3.6%. Story number 2. Just days before the federal election, a poll from Resolve Group in the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age shows Labor's primary support has fallen from 34% to 31%, and the coalition has risen from 33% to 34%. Only 14% of the sample said they're uncommitted, which means many people have made up their mind about who to vote for during the past fortnight. On a two-party preferred basis, Labor is ahead 51 to 49%. Also, this morning, Prime Minister Scott Morrison said the response the coalition is getting in pre-polling is encouraging. The race is getting tight. Story number 3. BlueScope Steel, Australia's biggest steel manufacturing company, upgraded its earnings guidance on the back of strong steel prices and expects to make around $1.43 billion this financial year, mostly on the back of an improved performance in its North American business. And much of that comes down to higher prices. It wasn't all good news. The floods along the east coast of Australia, supply chain disruptions and rail outages have hurt the Australian business. BlueScope's share price has had a rollercoaster ride this year, falling, rising and falling again. After today's 1.6% increase, it's down about 15% for the year. Story number 4. Well, actually, it's 2 stories in one. Boral warned that its earnings have continued to be hit by bad weather, particularly in New South Wales and Queensland. Higher energy prices aren't helping either. As a result, it downgraded its earnings forecast for the financial year, sending its share price down 3%. And Eagers Automotive said the reduction in new cars delivered to its dealers will hurt the group's bottom line. Semiconductor shortages and China's lockdown is hitting the car industry, with fewer new cars arriving in Australia. Eagers said how long people will have to wait before getting their new car is still a big unknown. Its share price fell 3.3%. And finally, story number 5. It was a pretty good morning for Wall Street, with all the major indices higher, led by the tech stocks, including Tesla, Apple and Amazon. The broad-based S&P 500 finished up 2%, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq closed 3% higher. There was some encouraging economic news, with US retail sales figures and factory output data both solid. But as always, the market listened most to anything that the US Federal Reserve said on interest rates. Chair Jerome Powell overnight said the Fed needs to see inflation coming down in a clear and convincing way. And I quote, "If we don't see that, we'll have to consider moving more aggressively." And just before I leave overseas markets, UK inflation figures have just been released. Consumer prices surged 9% in the year through April. That's the highest level in 40 years when Margaret Thatcher was Prime Minister. That's it for the afternoon report for Wednesday, the 18th of May, 2022. Michael Thompson and I will be back tomorrow morning for the Thursday edition of Fear and Greed. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your evening.